Welcome back to Broken Electronics. I'm so happy you could stop by here today. You'll notice, of course, we're back here in Studio B because that's where the 2009 Mac Pro 4,1 is currently situated. In fact, hooked up, and I'm using it now in recording this clip and a fair amount of this video. But before we get into what we're going to be doing in today's video, I'd like to give a status report. The first thing is that I have to admit that, Lord, I really need to do better research before I embark on doing videos. It never occurred to me that the 4,1 was going to have any problem running Sierra or High Sierra. But you'll remember from the very end of the last video, I pointed out that the machine was running 10.12.4, where Sierra topped out at 10.12.6. And the reason I couldn't use my RX 580 in that machine was because the drivers didn't appear until 10.12.6. I tried to find a way to get the App Store to offer that software update, but it wouldn't do it. Finally found it in Apple and on their website, downloaded it and ran it, and just got there, it can't be run on this computer. So going back and doing an actual little bit more research on that, discovered that a 2000 Mac Pro 4,1 with the 4,1 firmware tops out at El Capitan, which really made me wonder, how the heck did it get Sierra on there? You know, I've been around long enough, I can recognize the signs of a patched OS, at least if it's done with one of the DOS Dude 1 patchers, and this just didn't seem to have any of those signs. So I messaged the seller, and she answered back quite promptly. She's been very, very good about communication, saying that she had done nothing to patch the OS. She simply, yes, she runs a business. She had taken this machine in, put in that taped SSD, I didn't mention that part, and the 1 terabyte hard drive, and ran an install of Sierra on a USB drive she happened to have, and it happened to be, of course, 10.12.4, and then sent it off. How that managed to install, the machine shouldn't have allowed it, but it did. Well, anyway, and that's why I can't update it as is. So the only way for it, as I said in the end of the last video, the probable next step was going to be to flash the firmware to the 5,1 firmware. Turns out I'm going to need to do that. So that's the focus of today's video. Oh, by the way, I should point out, in speaking with the seller, I mentioned the damage done to the handles, and sent her a picture of it. She asked about it, and she very kindly offered to make up for it by sending me out another 3 terabyte hard drive. So that'll make a total of 4 terabytes of spinning hard drive storage in the machine, as well as the 1 terabyte NVMe that I'm going to put in, and I'm going to put in a 1 terabyte SSD anyway. So we'll be pretty well set for storage on this machine, at least for the time being. It was that or RAM, but I told her I'd already pretty much done everything I could do with the RAM. All right, so I think the best thing to do now will be for us to jump into a screen capture. Fortunately, Screnium 3 does run on Sierra, I hope. So I'll be able to, having downloaded that, we should be able to make that work. So if you want to check out the steps involved in updating the firmware of a 4,1 Mac Pro to that of a 5,1 Mac Pro, essentially making it a 5,1 Mac Pro and bringing it up, kicking and screaming to the future. Want to learn about that? Please stay tuned. Okay, here we are. Let's start out with a look at About This Mac. And we need to go to System Report. And here's our issue, the boot ROM version. What we need to focus on primarily are these first 4 letters and numbers. MP41, Mac Pro 4,1. So this is 4,1 firmware. That needs to be changed if we're ever going to get off version 10.12.4 of Sierra. All right, now in people have been doing this, of course, basically since 2010 or so thereafter, where people began to realize that was the way of getting their older machines to be able to accomplish more things. It particularly became important when Sierra, and particularly after that High Sierra, came out, because things were changing a lot. All right, so to cover this process, Jay at House of Moth has written an excellent guide here. He did this back in March to flash the 4,1 Mac Pro into a 5,1 Mac Pro, and covers a lot of the changes that are here. All right, 2 things that you must download, which are taken right from this server, which is nice. The firmware tool, I've already downloaded that. That's over here with its nice Mac Pro icon. And the firmware disk images here in this folder called Firmware Files. We see 2. Mac Pro EFI Update 1.4 disk image, Mac Pro EFI Update 1.5 disk image. Now, this is the appropriate one. Once you have flashed this, it is possible to downgrade back to the 4,1 firmware. Why anyone would want to do that is beyond me, but it is certainly possible. All right. Now, if you're in the process of doing this yourself, I strongly commend to all of you that you read all of this post. It is not a long read. It is very well written and very concise. One of the first things that is mentioned is rebooting the machine into recovery mode so that you can then disable system integrity protection, because this firmware flash is not going to work if that is enabled. So I will do that, and we'll have to resort, of course, to camera capture in order to get there. All right. Please stay tuned. All right, here we are, and forgive me for having to reach around the camera. All right, so we're doing this to get into terminal. And there's terminal. Now that we're here, we are going to type CSR util disable. And I don't know why. I am determined to remember this as CRS util, which of course doesn't work. Enter. Successfully disabled system integrity protection. Please restart the machine for the changes to take effect. Oh. Okay, reboot is the appropriate command. like this tripod because it's tall. But trying to get the screen properly centered, next to impossible. All right. Well, it's going to take some time to reboot, and you don't need to wait through that. Stay tuned. Okay, so here we are, back in Sierra. Now, there's nothing to indicate that SIP is in fact disabled, other than the fact that terminal told us that it is. Okay, so Jay's directions say now to open this, not that, the firmware files. Those are the clips from this video. And the one we want is Mac Pro EFI Update 1.5 disk image. This is the one to upgrade 4,1 to 5,1. This would be to downgrade 5,1 to 4,1. All right, and we get a package here. Now, the directions further indicate don't open the package. Instead, open the firmware tool. Which is here. And click Upgrade to 2010 Firmware. Authenticate. Copy scripts to RAM disk. Okay. Read carefully. To complete the firmware update, shut down the system, and upon restarting, hold the power button down until the power indicator flashes or you hear a long tone. Then release the power button. A gray screen with an Apple logo and progress bar will appear while the update is taking place. When the update is complete, your Mac Pro will start up normally. The update may take a few minutes. Do not unplug, shut down, restart, or disturb your Mac Pro in any way while the update is taking place. Now, a cautionary note. I have a Mac flashed graphics card in the machine currently. If you do not have a Mac flashed graphics card, it will work, but you won't see that gray screen with the Apple logo and progress bar. Won't happen. Okay. So, notice it says shut down, not restart. So we are shutting down. Okay, we're fully shut down now. Now I'm holding in the power button. And this takes a while. Okay, I'm seeing. I didn't hear the beep, but I saw the flash. There's the beep. So, if you want to go back in the video, you can time exactly how long that is. It's long enough to really make you wonder, is this actually working or not? And there's our screen and our progress meter. As I pointed out, if your graphics card is not Mac flashed, you'll have a black screen right now. But as long as you've heard the beep and seen the power button flash, aha, the optical drive has opened, the lower optical drive, incidentally. And, you know, in the first video on this machine, I had commented that I had never seen a Mac Pro 4,1/5,1 or of any description, even back to the older ones, that actually had two optical drives. Guess what? This one has got two optical drives. Whether I'm going to leave, I'll leave them in there for now. I don't use optical drives particularly often. All right, I'm going to save you this time. Stay tuned. Okay, it shut itself down, and it is now restarting. We should hear the chime momentarily. There's the chime. Okay. You can hear my neighbor's dogs barking in the background there. All right. I suppose I have to change that electric guitar picture. Sign in to iMessage. Okay, look, we'll deal with that later. What I want to do right now is about this Mac. All right, all of this information stays exactly the same, of course. Well, let's go to System Profiler. And here is our boot ROM version, MP51.007F.B03. The main important point, MP51. So we have a successful firmware flash. Now, while I'm here, look under disk burn. Yep, here we are. This must have been configured, because this machine is mostly as configured from Apple with some changes. The RAM has been upgraded, for example. But you know, the processors are the higher tier. The graphics card that was in there originally is the higher tier. So I imagine they got, whoever the original buyer was, who's not the seller, had configured it with two identical optical drives. Now, it's into the 2020s now. How much do we really need optical drives? I used one towards the beginning of last year at some point. For the older Power Macs, I'll use them fairly frequently for various things. Okay. Now, was there anything else I wanted to look at before going anywhere? Oh yeah. I am just wondering. Checking for updates. I'm just wondering if they're going to get the updater for 10.12.6. It's possible now because the firmware was what was stopping it before. I don't think I'm going to. I think the easier thing will be, might as well just install High Sierra. Yep, by golly, there it is. So that was what it needed. Now, the interesting thing here, how the heck did she manage to get Sierra to install on this machine with that firmware? Just one of those strange things, and strange things do happen. I remember, this is quite a while back now, on my 2005 iMac G5, installing Panther, and I got it to install, having completely forgotten that it's not supposed to install. Those machines shipped with Tiger. But it did install, so who knows? It was a fight. Okay, so I think, I have no idea how long this video is going to be. I will see how long, and if it's of sufficient length, I'll release it as its own video. If not, I'll be releasing it as an update video. Because I think it's probably as well that this process has its own video. How many people are still buying 4,1s and flashing to 5,1s? You'd be surprised. There are quite a few people who do, who come across, as I did with this one. I ran across a 2-tray 4,1 at a very, very, very reasonable price. And because of the bent handle, got another 3 terabyte hard drive thrown in. Okay, so in any event, be good to other people. They need it and deserve it. Be good to yourselves. We'll make the world a better place, but in order to do that, we have to start out by being good to ourselves. It isn't that better place yet, so please take very, very good and careful care. Okay, next up should be installing High Sierra, which will involve yet another firmware flash, that one to install support for APFS drives, because of course we'll want to install Sierra with APFS. Now, I had actually been mulling over, could I just go directly to Mojave? Because Mojave has another firmware update which causes you to be able to boot from an NVMe drive, which I definitely want to do. I've got one that I'm going to put into this machine. And I would think that just going straight to that and installing that firmware is going to be fine. And I still think that. I believe that would work without a problem. However, I am not sufficiently sure to bet my life on it. And every single direction I've seen has involved booting up High Sierra. It would probably work from Sierra, but let's go to High Sierra. I'll work with that for a while, and then we'll end up going to Mojave, and we'll see where we go after that. All right, and there'll be a whole bunch of other stuff. There'll be probably 2-3 more videos after that one on this machine and the G4 stuff and all kinds of other things. So until those things are available on the channel, this has been Broken Electronics.